All righty, folks. As expected, more and more one rental at a time fans are executing the 50-40-10. This is something that we cobbled together with the folks at Velocity Mortgage and Stephen Dow a couple of years ago. It was frankly more theory than practical back when it was a seller's market. But guess what? It's a buyer's market, and the 50-40-10 is working. Let's welcome Stephen Dow to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning. I'm doing well. And yourself?
Awesome. Let's get that marketing shtick out of the way, and then we'll get into the meat at hand.
Although I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital, all the ideas and topics discussed on this channel, that of my own. So let's get it going.
So again, I think the 50-40-10, it was always sexy, right? Velocity Mortgage offers a 90% CLTV combined loan to value, which means Velocity come in for the first, the seller takes a second, and the investor comes in with only 10% down. This could be done on any investment property, from single family homes to duplexes to quads to apartment buildings. Hello, apartment buildings. But back when you and I kicked this off 2.5 years ago, it was really theory, right? It was a seller's market. Sellers were getting their prices. Things were flying off the shelf. It still worked. Don't get me wrong. And people did them. Shout out Lumberjack for doing one. But it's a buyer's market. And this sexy, powerful, once-in-a-lifetime tool that Velocity offers, this 90% CLTV, is going to be used more and more and more. And we have an example. We can just use first names of somebody taking down a multifamily with this program.
Yes. We got the appraisal back. Everything supported the purchase price. And so it was a 2 to 4 unit multifamily at a no ratio loan. So there's really nothing else that's going to disqualify you. At this point now, it's just trailing documentation, making sure, insurance coverage matches as far as, property address, mortgagee clause, amounts, stuff like that. And the rest is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. So let's just use a number, for example. Let's say this multifamily was purchased for $400,000, $100K a door, whatever. That means that you, Velocity, are under the 50-40-10 angle would come in for $200,000. Right. The seller would take back $160,000 as a second, and then the borrower or the investor
40.
in this case would come in with 40, right?
Right.
But that sounds really cool. But the power is that second, that 40%, you can negotiate a lower than traditional interest rate. So I don't know if you can say, but I'm going to ask because that's just who I am. Do you know what the interest rate is on the second in this particular example? He's gonna go look it up.
I'm gonna look it up because it's low. That I know. And here's the thing, to be honest, because although for underwriting purposes, we're gonna need it at a certain percentage as far as the term or interest rate.
Right.
But if buyer and seller work something out after the fact, as far as whatever that second is paid off. If the seller just forgave that altogether after the loan closed or never collect a payment on that second, we wouldn't really even care at that point because
you don't care about it. Yeah, you're in first. It doesn't matter to you, right? Yeah.
So I mean, I've seen it to where they've worked out something, I don't know, and either didn't pay any interest or paid off faster, however it was. But yeah, there was a lot of ability to kind of have a little bit more negotiating powers later on after the fact.
Yeah, because I've seen some of these deals go down where that second, in this case, $160,000 is 0, 1, 2. I even did one myself where there was no interest, no payments for 5 years.
Right. Well, yeah. There's some of that where
you get a balloon. You get a balloon. Yep. In 5 years. So all these are possible. It's part of the negotiation. Again, this is not right for every seller. However, folks, it's a buyer's market, and days on market are exploding. Yep. Buyers are getting more desperate, or sellers are getting more desperate. Some people have to sell, and sometimes they're anchored on a price. I've told the story many times about a guy who took me for $20,000. He wanted 120 for 100 house. I beat him up for months and months and months, and he wasn't budging. And I finally said, "All right, I'll give you 120, but you've got to carry the note, 0% interest for 30 years, fully amortized." And he said yes, because he was anchored on his price. And I didn't care. I was going to hold it forever. So I don't mind a 30-year interest-free loan and 10% down. I'll do that almost every time.
Right. Because again, I think people are starting to understand, mainly the buyers right now who are showing a lot more interest. Because I mean, this is more of a buyer's show as
Yeah.
well as a buyer's market. But the real key is to get the word out to sellers. Because I think once they understand the power of this and they can apply it to their strategy or needs, then it's just the easy like now I'm just looking for investors with 10% down. Who would want to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just yeah, I'm still racking my brain to try to find the right vehicle to try to get this information out to sellers because I truly believe that. Like you said, there's a lot of sellers who don't know that this is an option, so they're just dropping price when if they can stay at their price, but give the buyer their terms, and if they don't need all the proceeds, it's like it's a win-win. It's like no, don't lower your price.
I love this example. More and more, again, we're in a buyer's market, so sellers got to get creative. If you're a selling agent, aka a listing agent, you need to have these conversations with sellers, especially if they have a lot of equity, right?
Yes.
What's more important to you? Price, terms, cash flow, tax write-offs. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can skin this thing and be in a secured position.
Agreed. Because again, otherwise you're rolling the dice to see, see if somebody wants to catch a falling knife almost. You know what I mean?
How deep a discount do you want to take?
Right, right. And the longer you're in the market, the more obscenely, I mean, everybody wants to say big investors are always obscenely low ball offers right now, Look,
Well, I'll give you a full example. I mean, there's a house I'm tracking in Vegas. I've identified my first offer.
Right.
I'll write it on day 75 because right now I think it's
Disrespectful.
day. Yeah, it'll be. I'll give you the numbers. I'll just tell you. Right now it's $399, and my offer on day 75 will be $300K cash. That's where I'm going to start. And again, I don't expect them to say yes, but I expect the conversation to start. And maybe the answer is, okay, I'll give you 375, but you got to carry this, that, the other, and do the 50, 40, 10, right? It's all about starting the conversation.
100%.
And again, I don't think people realize it, and more people will, but you could do this with a freaking apartment buildings, mixed use, and get in for 10% down. And oh, by the way, one of the things that's really interesting about multifamily sellers versus single family, multifamily sellers are a lot more understanding of creative financing and leverage. Mom and pop selling a home, they're going to think this second's risky and maybe illegal. Not apartment owners. Apartment owners know the game. They've been in it for a while. And many of them are frustrated landlords, tired landlords that want to retire. And frankly, they want income.
Right.
So that second is a good thing. And oh, by the way, I've never met a landlord in the game for 20 years who doesn't hate the IRS. And the last thing they want to do is pay more taxes with depreciation, recapture, and all of that. Right. So again, a 40% carry helps them. You got to learn all of this stuff.
Right. Agreed. At this stage, with this being a buyer's market, just level up in your knowledge because there's so many tools out there that are available for you to be able to take advantage of what's going on right now. So, even if you don't got, that money as far as down payment, if you can find the right motivated seller, I mean, if you don't have at least 10% down, you shouldn't be investing at least, to some degree. Otherwise, your margins are super, super skinny. So that's just a little too much risk for me. But yeah, I think just getting the word out to sellers, the ones with enough equity to kind of participate in something like this and don't need all the proceeds from the sale of the property, this is where I think this is going to help to move a lot of units. So I'm looking forward to more of these. I know that, again, don't take my word for it. Look for the listings. I'm seeing them in some of my markets, a lot more seller financing options. And so I think if sellers can kind of understand this, they may not have to take on the 100% of the weight. Now they're more like willing to maybe make more aggressive, terms on their seller seconds when they're getting a big chunk of their money up front. So yeah, that's why I can't sleep, Mike. I'm always trying to think, how do I get this message out to sellers, man? We were talking about that before we started the video. Yeah. We were like, how are you? I'm tired.
Folks, at the end of the day, the 50, 40, 10, 9% CLTV is a product Velocity Mortgage Stephen Dow brings to the table. It is going to become the most powerful tool. This is just another example of somebody doing it. In a buyer's market, it is the Swiss Army knife to get best price, best terms, best rate, best payment, low down. Again, apartments, houses, whatever it is, investment properties. Stephen, if somebody wanted to talk shop, what do they do?
Email's best. I'm always on the move. Like I just flew in last night from traveling for work. So email is probably going to be the best because if I can't reach it right away, I can delegate to my team so you get the best response time. Make sure in the subject line you put the acronym ORAAT to make it past the firewall. The body, the email, maybe a brief description, what you're looking for. Address is going to be super helpful, at least stating the state to make sure I lend there. Your mid-FICO score, best phone number to reach you at, and typically 24, 48 hours, I'll be in touch. I'm actually working today. If anybody
You're
knows,
working all the time.
Yeah, I know. We're recording on a Saturday, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only Saturday. But again, I keep telling people every day is Saturday. So this is, I guess, it's Saturday.
For somebody
Works
like
for me.
you, yeah, you know, us road
All right.
warriors, you know, still.
I remember those days. 100,000 miles a year. That was not fun. Not fun. Take care, brother. Take care.
You too, man.